Good morning, Derek. Good morning, Derek. You there? You can type in the chat if you don't have your audio or don't have ability to speak with a microphone or anything. Well, we're waiting for. I'll wait a little bit more just in case anybody else shows up. I'm double checking, but if memory serves me, I'm kind of confused now because someone showed up, which I normally didn't necessarily assume someone would show up because if I remember correctly, the syllabus said we were only doing one lab this week. Yeah, that was the case. I just wanted to double check that. So we were only doing one lab this week, and that's normally something we do just to maintain the order of the labs throughout the semester so that all of our 241 classes are roughly doing the same lab at the same time. And I basically front loaded the course with this open lab time so that anybody could actually ask me questions about any labs they may have. For instance, I haven't started grading any of the labs yet. I plan on starting grading today. And in fact, the way I told everybody that I do this is if your lab report is in by the time I start grading it, then you're not gonna. I generally don't take points off. I'm not required to not do that. That's just what I do. The syllabus just basically says you have to have it in by the due date, and that's it. But anyways, I do usually do that. Once I grade the lab, if it's missing, then you get a zero, and then when you turn it in, you get a late penalty, usually somewhere between 15 and 20 points for being late. So you don't want to be late for starters, but the other thing is know that you normally have at least a 1 day buffer. So, anyways, this lab this week is or this particular portion of the lab this week, because we have two labs every week. This one is open, so I decided to come online and just answer any questions people might have about their other labs. You can still, for instance, take your very first lab, which was due long before today or whatever. Actually, it was just due 2 days ago. But anyways, if you already turned that in and you had a question about it, you can ask the question, and then you could make the correction to your lab and then resubmit it. And I only grade the latest one you turned in. That's the only one I even look at. So if you had any problem with that lab, with the first lab or with the second lab, now ask the questions, and you still have time to correct your lab and then resubmit it before I grade it. So the other thing I was going to allow this time for you guys to do is to start working on your practice test. I've had to shift. I'm slowly working on your syllabus, trying to correct some of the dates. I'm pushing all the homeworks back, like we had discussed on a previous Zoom meeting. I'm pushing the due dates back on the homework so that we don't have any students that have a problem with not getting their homework on time, but at the same time, that also introduces a little bit of problems. Specifically, for instance, it might not be unreasonable for instance, test three, online test three, which would be on chapters 1 through 6, might be due before chapter 5 and 6 are due homework wise. So, uh, obviously you would be shooting yourself in the foot if you had taken a test on chapters 5 and 6 without doing any of the homework for chapters 5 and 6 yet. But that's the way the due dates are set up. So make sure you use the homeworks as much as you need to get prepared for the test. What I would recommend doing is, for each test, no matter what the due date is on the homework, if you have a test on chapters, let's say 5 and 6, know one that that's comprehensive, so that expects you will be possibly tested on chapters one, two, three, four, five, and six, not just five and six, because all my tests are comprehensive. So when you go to take that test, you want to first go into chapter five, at least look at, if not do, all the tutorial problems, because they're problems. Some ones are just problems. Some ones are what we call tutorials or learning exercises, that sort of thing. You should probably do those because they'll help you better understand what you hopefully got from my examples and the textbook examples, and you maybe do just a few of those and then start looking at chapter six, doing the same thing. Look for the tutorials and the learning type problems and stuff of that sort. At least look at them, but hopefully do them. And then, since you're done with with parts of the chapter five and six, and you've got a little bit of confidence about your understanding of those chapters and the problems therein, then you start doing the practice test for online test three. So that would be a practice test that, as I said, includes chapters one, two, three, four, but mostly five and six. And then when you run into problems in chapter five or chapter six type problems, then you go back to the homeworks and look for ones that are like it and see if that can help you. Or you go, as I'd been talking to you guys in class, the problems at the end of each chapter are a wealth of information. They have all the odd ones have answers, and some of them are listed according to subsections. So, for instance, if you're having a problem with subsection 3 in chapter 5, you can look at 5-3 at the end of the chapter, and that'll be only problems related to chapter 5 or to subsection 5-3. So you can start doing those problems and specifically look at the odd ones, because if you look at the odd ones, they're the ones that have the answers in the back. So you can find a problem like the one you're trying to do, or even closely related to it. Try to solve that problem. Check the answer in the back. If you got the right answer, then you've probably figured it out. Now, occasionally there is just blatantly a wrong answer in the answers in the back of the book, but that's very, very rare. It's normally on the order of one or two per chapter, and normally there's only order of 100 questions per chapter. So 1 to 2% of the answers they give in the back of the book are off. So just be prepared in case you get one that doesn't have the right answer and you think you did everything right. You might still have done everything right. It could just be an error. That's the time where you'd want to ask me or even Google it, because a lot of these problems are out on the internet. This new edition of Giancoli's fifth edition isn't out on the internet as bad, though, because it's such a new edition. But you might find a problem just like it where they had similar problems, or sometimes you'll find that it's the exact same problem. They just maybe changed the numbers or something, or even changed the order of the problem. So, problem in the fourth edition might have been problem 12, whereas in the fifth edition it might be problem 22 or something. So, anyways, so I'm allowing this time for you guys to ask me questions. So it seems like only Derek's here and he doesn't seem to have any questions. But I'm also allowing you this time to take the practice test. And I would say uh, a reasonable use of this 3 hour segment that you're supposed to get twice a week would be probably at least four practice test attempts. So I've already opened up practice test one, which actually they've been open the whole time. It's just a matter of the dates weren't set right, and I had to make sure all the questions are working properly and all that sort of stuff. So I just finished making practice test one open until I believe the date I set was June 7th, which is also the due date of online test one. So that's the way that's supposed to work. I'm not giving you extra credit for taking a practice test for test one uh, after you've completed the test. So obviously, when the due date of the test comes up, the practice test disappears, because otherwise students would just be getting extra credit for doing a practice test after they took the test, which was the whole purpose of the practice test, was to make your grade better and make you more confident. So, anyways, that's all I've got planned for today. You guys are, of course, free to go. If you have any questions, now's the time. As also, last night I posted that we were going to have, uh, that I wasn't going to be able to make that meeting, and I can't make the one tonight either. So we're doing some other stuff with that. But I just wanted to let you know that this was also a time for people to play catch up and ask me any questions they might have had last night. I did send an email and asked anybody that had questions to send me a text message or an email. Actually, I said a text message or an email, and I didn't see either before I went to bed last night, so I took that to mean that everybody was fine, or maybe they didn't even get my email or announcement. I did make the announcement. It was a little bit after class was supposed to start because I figured the email was sufficient, but then I was like, well, some students might not check their email, so it might be better if I put it in an announcement. So I ended up putting it in the announcement, I think about 15, 20 minutes after the class was supposed to start. Uh, I apologize for doing it that late, but hopefully everybody got the information. Yeah, I'm checking now. I still do not see, yeah, I still don't see any emails people sent me about class. Oh, here's one. Let's see if that's a, nope, that's a different one. That's not from one of my students. Uh, nope. So I didn't receive, just double checking. I didn't know if maybe someone sent one after my bedtime or whatever. So, and also sometimes I just miss emails and I miss text messages. I did not see any text messages I missed. And now I've checked the email since the first email I sent yesterday, which was the one telling everybody about last night's class not being held. So if you have any questions, you can still send me a text message, and I'll see about either just answering it by text. You can also send me an email. I'll see about answering it by email, or you can send it to me either one of those ways, and I might decide that this would be better suited for a one-on-one Zoom session, and I can set up that. And then sometimes if it's a big enough concept or something, I'll set up a Zoom session and then invite everyone, even though it's specifically for the one person that asked. So I'm going to go ahead and call it a day. I'll post this on my YouTube channel. Obviously, it's not going to be much help, but I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that I was here for the lab this morning, that specifically we do not have a lab due this week. In lieu of this lab meeting, your time is supposed to be used in at least completing 4 practice tests for practice test one version. So you find practice test one, which is on chapters 1 and 2, and you complete it 4 times, and that would be the equivalent of attending class today. Now it's really as short as the practice tests are. 4 questions is nowhere near the 3 hours that you're supposed to be having me for a lab. So in some sense, I'd still owe you time, but that's also what I'm doing with anybody wanting to email me, anybody wanting to text message me, or anybody wanting to set up a Zoom meeting with me. You can do that. I still have another Zoom meeting I'm going to hold, and that's going to cover some chapter 2 problem examples, and I'll post that later. So have a good one. Anybody have any questions for us, Split? No problem, Derek. You have a good one. Sorry if I got you up for nothing, but you have a good day, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye bye.